I just spent the day crying in bed thinking about my next day. You know, the Sunday scaries. It just was very scary, very, very scary. And I could not get out of bed. That was the day I realized that something needed change, that this was not working. When I go to an event and I'm introduced to someone new, the first question you're asked is, oh, so what do you do? I struggled with that question for quite some time because now my identity wasn't, oh, I'm an executive in the chemical industry, or, oh, I'm an engineer. Whatever that was, it was no longer that. Whatever you're struggling with is in your life right now. What is it that you're supposed to learn in this situation? What is it that you're supposed to grow from in this situation? Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in another similar situation until you learn that lesson, whatever that lesson is that you're supposed to learn. I was doing the stuff that I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't making life choices. I wasn't leading my life. And what this moment said was, man, I'm shutting the door on that inertia, that hamster wheel thing that you're on, right?
Yeah.
You got to go figure it out yourself. What are you going to do with your life?
I am so excited today for my new guest, who is Farheen Qadir. Welcome, Farheen, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I can't wait to share your story and the inspiration that you bring for my listeners today. So why don't we get right to it? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, so that people can get to know you.
Awesome. Absolutely. So I'm Farheen. I am a former C-suite executive in the chemical industry, now an entrepreneur and loving it. I was trained as an engineer at MIT and then got my business degree at Wharton and then worked in the chemical industry for 23 years. And it was amazing career, helped me travel around the world. I lived and worked in many, many countries. And now I'm back here in New Jersey, running my own business.
That's amazing. And that is how we met, because of your new business, the Mira Shoppe. And we'll talk all about that as well. So I wanted to ask you, you were a high-level executive. What was it like to leave that and walk away from that place? Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yes. For many of us, Chitra, our identity is anchored in our jobs and our titles and our careers, right? And that was the same for me. And so leaving that was definitely difficult for me, because for a time it was, okay, well, when I go to an event and I'm introduced to someone new, the first question you're asked is, oh, so what do you do? Right? And so, I struggled with that question for quite some time, because now my identity wasn't, oh, I'm an executive in the chemical industry, or, oh, I'm an engineer. Whatever that was, it was no longer that. So I would say, that was definitely a struggle, and took some time for me to come into my own in being able to disconnect my identity with my career and what I did.
Yeah, that's huge, right? I mean, especially once you've made it to the C-suite. It's a hard shift to then leave. Can you talk a little bit about what made you leave?
Oh boy, yes, there was a pivotal moment in my life, Chitra. I've told you a little bit about it, but I was working in a small private equity owned chemical company at the top, at the senior leadership, which meant a lot of stress, which is normal and expected in a company like that. But I found myself one Sunday morning unable to get out of bed. I just spent the day crying in bed thinking about my next day. The Sunday scaries. It just was very scary, very, very scary. And I could not get out of bed. That was the day I realized that something needed change, that this was not working. And I needed to make some major changes in my life if I wanted to survive, right? And so that moment was the beginning of me forming a team around me, a team of people that were going to help me through this transition, right? So that team included an employment lawyer that helped me understand what my rights were, what leverage I had, how I would be able to manage and exit this company on my terms, not on their terms, right? Wow. I brought on a therapist to help me just kind of get grounded again and be able to lead through this change in a healthier way. I brought on someone that worked with energies, right? Someone that could then also, from a whole different perspective than what I understood, could help me as well on this journey. And then, of course, I leaned into my friends and my close family to be able to cry on their shoulders through this transition, because none of this was easy. None of this was easy. But, what was critical was bringing on a team of people, professionals that know what they're doing, that could guide me along this path.
Takes a village, huh? I feel like we've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah. And why not, right? If you have access to all of these people that can support you on this journey, why have to battle that on your own? Why not get their help and be able to, go through it more gracefully and land on your feet?
Oh, amen, sister. Oh my God. You're speaking my language, girl. I love it. I love it. This is so true, right? We hesitate to ask for help. And I'm so glad you did. So would you say it was like the corporate culture? What made you want to leave? I know you said there was a lot of stress. Is it like the stress got too much, or was there other things?
It was, I think when you're operating at that level, you're kind of used to dealing with the stress, right? That I don't think that was the case, because I had that in multiple other roles in other companies in the past.
And your education, MIT, Wharton, that couldn't have been easy.
Exactly. There's a saying at MIT, especially when we compare it to Harvard, right? Because there's a rivalry there. And it's that Harvard is harder to get into than MIT is, right? But MIT is harder to get out of.
Oh, wow.
Harvard, right? So,
and you did that, so bravo.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think many of the jobs that I held in corporate America felt easier than those 4 years at MIT, right? So yes, it was hard, and it was stressful, and that was not something new to me. But what was different is the personal level attacks, the toxicity, the backstabbing in the boardroom, the never knowing whether you were stepping on solid ground or not, right? The ground would suddenly shift in front of you. You thought you were going in the right direction, and suddenly the direction has changed, and now you're going here. And then immediately told, why are you going here? You need to be going here. And so just this constant shift of what to do, how to lead, and taking that down to a personal level, personal attacks, it just became unbearable and not fun, right? And in the end, why do you want to be there if you're not enjoying it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can think of so many people, and I'm sure so many people listening are going through that, struggle right now, because, sometimes we work so hard to get into these jobs and these positions, and then they just suck the joy out of you and the life out of you, right?
And I think one of the things that I had been very, very fortunate in my whole career that I had amazing leaders. I had amazing bosses that, today, if any of them came back and said, hey, Farheen, would you work for me? I would say in a heartbeat. Every single one of them at every company I had, right? And so I was super blindsided in the experience that I'm talking about when it wasn't the case anymore, right? It wasn't the case anymore. And understanding, how do I navigate in that environment where it's not a place that I'm supposed to be anymore, right? It's not a place where I'm supposed to be. There was a certain look, a certain background, a certain demographic that would thrive, and I didn't fit in that demographic, right? I didn't fit in that. And so kind of coming to that reality that there are absolutely limits to what I can achieve in this world because of how we are set up.
Breaks my heart that we still in 2025 are talking about this, right? But this is the reality. And you mentioned leaning into your village. Tell me a little bit about what that support system taught you about strength and healing.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, that healing comes from where you least expect it.
Really?
Like I mentioned, the energy healer, she's a friend of mine. She and I studied together at MIT. So it actually allowed me to lean into her, because I said, well, she studied the engineering and science. She gets that stuff. And she's still doing this energy thing. There's got to be something to it, because I know she's got a brain. I know that she's got that background, but she's doing this. There's got to be something to this. And so it allowed me to kind of lean into it because I trusted her, right? And absolutely, there was a lot of healing that came in the work that I did with her, or that she did with me, that I didn't expect. Also, I would say leaning into a friend of mine at work, in the work environment, there was actually one person who was like my safety, right? He was the person that was protecting maybe isn't the right word, but understood the situation and was able to be a comforting voice through that, right? And, he remains today one of my absolute closest friends. And it's someone I only met a year before that whole situation happened, right? But he will, I hope, continue to be one of my closest friends for the rest of my life, because, it's, again, someone I had just met, had only started working with, but very quickly became the absolute most important pillar of strength that I had in the office environment.
Yeah. We spoke a little bit about this before we started recording, but can you talk about how you were saying, like, we need all different kinds of people, right? And we need to lean into that help, and how it can change everything, right? And so many times we're hesitant to talk about or reach out for help.
Yeah, because it requires vulnerability, right, Chitra? Yeah. And a lot of us that are used to solving problems on our own, leading, excelling in everything that we do, we've done it usually just by like plowing through those challenges. You just figure out a way through it and you do it, right? And then to be able to say, wait, hold on, like, I don't need all those scars on the other side of this. Like, if I could get help with some, from other people around me, maybe I can make it through alive, right? Maybe I can make it through and not just survive it, but then thrive on the other side. And that's where that vulnerability is so important. Just being able to stop and ask for help, right?
Was that hard?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Because if your success and your identity is based on your success, to be able to say, wait, okay, hold on, things aren't working as beautifully as it looks. I need help, right? I need help. So it's super hard in that sense. But then I was always pleasantly surprised on the other side, right? How people are just waiting for you to ask. They're waiting for you to ask because they absolutely want to help you. They want to see you thrive through this, right? I mean, if you've been leading a good life, you're going to be surrounded by friends and family that just care about you. They don't see you with that identity that you think you have, right? Yeah. This super executive, they don't see you as that. They see you as their daughter or their sister or their friend or whatever. And the job you have is irrelevant to them. Yeah. It's in your head that identity exists.
Oh my God. And it's such a strong identity for so many people, right? And that's why I asked the question about vulnerability, because, it is hard. It is hard to ask for help. And we are so conditioned to hide our problems, right? Yeah. And so if someone here listening today right now is in that situation where they just can't find it in them to be vulnerable, one of the things you said is that you'll be surprised on the other side.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Absolutely. Because, surprise, one, because the people around you want to help, right? And because they're not going to think less of you because you're struggling. That's one. Two, when you are vulnerable and ask for help, it allows you to strengthen your relationship with those people around you, right? Because they want to help. You let them in to help. Your relationships will be stronger. And then the third thing is they're all going through the same stuff, right? Yeah. We all try to put this like pretty face on and that, life's great, right? The Instagram filters or whatever you want to call them, right? Like, life's not great. And everyone has things that they're struggling with.
Thank you.
The person who asks for help, they may not have the exact same problem, but man, when they see you open, they're going to have the sigh of relief because they need to open up as well. And they need your help as well. Right. And so in this journey, there are so many people that have then opened up, and we've had beautiful relationships and beautiful conversations that otherwise would not have happened.
Absolutely. Oh my God. That human connection, right? That we all crave and that we all want. It happens in these moments of vulnerability, right? Mm-hmm. This is when we see the magic happen. And otherwise we're just all going on our hamster wheel, doing our own thing and, coexisting, but not really connecting.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, I love it so much. Okay, so you also talked about your faith playing a major role in your transformation, especially the pilgrimages that you took. Tell me a little bit about what was going on in your personal life at that time and how this kind of came about.
Absolutely. So, Chitra, before the first of these pilgrimages that I did, before that, I honestly had never even considered doing a pilgrimage, right? Like before I made that decision, like it was not on my radar. It wasn't something I was planning. It wasn't something I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to, I want to do this on this date. I never actually ever had a conversation about it. But the day that that it was clear with, a conversation with my manager of when my last day at work was going to be, that literally I hung up the phone with him and I called my mom and I said, Mom, I want to go on this pilgrimage that you and Dad are going on. Like that was my first phone call. And that was immediately the thing that I wanted to do. And fortunately there was room in the tour group, whatever I could join. I did it. And it just felt like the absolute right thing to do to help me in this journey, right? It was where I needed to be. It was this ability to just be at peace. Right? Because that's what these pilgrimages are about. It's about letting go of all of the worldly stuff that you have going on in your head and just sitting in a quiet space and being with your thoughts with God. Like that's all it is. That's all it is, right? And I needed that.
And you hadn't thought about this before.
No,
it was just in that moment, it just came to you like a call almost. Wow.
Yeah. I knew my mom and dad were doing it. So I had that information in the back of my head. But even knowing that, I hadn't thought that, oh, I want to go with them. Until I hung up the phone, that was the first thought that I had. And I picked up and talked to my mom and we found out, yes, there's room. So I joined. I can't imagine a better way of having spent my time in that transition after work. Right?
What was it like?
Slow. It was like stopping, right? And saying that maybe sounds silly, but man, after you work really, really, really hard in school, right, to get good grades, then you work really hard to go to college, get into a good college and get good grades there. Then you work really hard to get a good job. And then you work hard at that job to get the promotion and to get the next job and the higher salary and then the next job. And you work hard for that next promotion. And then you make it to the top and then you suddenly stop.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I needed that stop. I needed that stop to just be with myself.
Was it scary?
What was that?
Was it scary to be like quiet with your thoughts again? Like have that room?
Yeah, no, it felt right.
Yeah.
It felt like exactly where I needed to be. And, when I think about energies and God and callings and all of that kind of stuff, that it almost sounds funny me talking this way. This isn't the way that I would normally speak. This moment, it was me and my parents. And when I went, my parents, in their 70s, 80s. So I knew this was the last time that they're doing this pilgrimage. And so I went very clearly with this intention of serving them, right? Making sure that this was the trip that they needed. This was the pilgrimage that they needed it to be. And so I was very much in this mindset of service to them during this pilgrimage. And I kid you not, Chitra, 2 weeks after we came back, my father passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh,
but it was beautiful.
You had to spend that time with him before he passed. Oh, what a blessing. Yeah. What a blessing.
Absolutely. It was incredible. So when I heard of his passing, there was peace in my heart, right? And so that's where I say, man, it all happened on purpose. I needed to leave my company when I did. So that way I would be mentally free to go on this pilgrimage so that I would have the time to spend with my dad so that when he left, I was at peace.
Oh, I love this so much. This is so beautiful and so powerful because if we allow the space for things like that to happen, life can actually be pretty magical, right? Even in sorrow, even in pain, even in loss and grief.
Exactly.
And you shutting that door on your job literally opened up space for more.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And then, that was kind of the beginning of this I don't know, I can call it a spiritual reawakening, but like, it's just kind of me being more curious about this growth and investing now in the spiritual part, which I really hadn't invested in before. Yeah. And then that led to the second calling that I had, that I told you about, with my son. I had been struggling with him, and just raising a teenager, right? A teenage boy. And it was, of my two sons, he's the one that I've always struggled to connect with, struggled to have like just flow with. And in his teenage years, he is rebel, right? Like just getting in trouble in school and constantly just irking me in every way possible, right? It was maybe springtime, and I was trying to plan, okay, what are we going to do this summer? And every summer I take my kids out for a 2-week vacation somewhere international. And I was trying to figure out, okay, where do we go? Where do we go? We go to France. Maybe we'll go to Turkey. Maybe we'll go to Pakistan. Who knows? We'll go somewhere. But I just didn't feel good about any of them. It felt like I was being a ostrich, sticking my head into the sand, saying, no, everything's good. Everything's good. We're going to go on vacation. But everything was not good, right? My relationship with my son was awful. It was really a disaster. And he was going down a path of destruction, right? And I had not been able to successfully take him out of that. And that was when I got the calling the second time, and where it was like, all right, you got to come back, right? I need you back here on this pilgrimage. And so like that, I said, okay, that's where we're going to go. And I booked the tickets for me and my boys, and we went. And I went there thinking, God is going to fix my son. That's why I go, because God's going to fix my son, right? I couldn't do it. Now he's like, all right, forget it. You can't do it. I'm going to take care of it for you, right? Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
What he did was smack me over the head, because what needed fixing was my mindset, right? Just using the words, I need to fix my son, right? The wrong words, because the mindset was off. And so that pilgrimage was to smack me over the head and say, Farheen, get out of your head, be the mom that he needs you to be. Not the one you think you're supposed to be. Be the mom that he needs you to be. And that mom is a patient mom. That mom is one that puts judgments to the side.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Sees her son and values her son for who he is.
So precious.
And it sounds so simple, but man, no.
You're breaking so many years and so many generations of this style of upbringing kids, right? And we are fighting this because we know there's something better out there. We just don't quite know how. And we still want to fit in, and we want to be good parents, and we want everyone to like us. And there's so much trauma and so much drama around the whole thing. Like I had to work with a parenting coach to achieve the same thing, where my older son, I had the same struggle. And I was like, I'm trying to fit him into this box of this typical Indian smart child. And he has to fit in and he has to succeed. And, and then thankfully these kids fight back and they rebel and they're like, no, I'm not having this nonsense anymore. And then luckily we find people who help us see the light. Right? Because that's really what it comes down to, is seeing the light. Exactly. But I'm so glad that you were able to find that and relieve yourself, not just of the stress and the pressure of being a mom to a teenager who is rebelling, but also then be there to see him for who he is, right? Yeah. And do you have a beautiful relationship now that you can communicate with each other?
So much better. And because he feeds off of my energy, right? And so when he like throws out something, he's watching how I react, right? And I very much now am calm, and I just kind of let it happen, and we, and we flow, and he absolutely, our relationship has changed. There was a moment a few months ago, my son, my boys, and their cousins, they were all playing some game, and there was a question. A weird question. What does your mom do when she's upset, or something like that? That was a question. It was like a family questions, right? I don't know. And I overheard this, and I'm like, oh yeah, she yells, right? And my son said, no, Mom, you don't yell anymore.
Oh, I have chills all over my body. As a mom, right? That's like the best thing you want to hear.
Exactly.
Oh,
for me, that was the sign that, okay, all right, we're going in the right direction. We are going in the right direction.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? We can go into spirituality, we can go into energy, we can go into faith, but everything just leads to more clarity and more alignment, right? And the more clarity and more alignment that we have, the more we can show up as our true selves and honor everyone else's true self.
Yeah.
Oh, this journey. What a journey you've had. My God. I love it though, because there's so many lessons in here and so much inspiration in your story. Now, you've also said that intuition is God speaking to us. How did trusting that inner voice change the course of your life and, even the relationship with your son?
Yeah. Gosh, it changed in every way. Just being open to listen to it, right? And to hear it, and give value and give space to that intuition, to trust it, and go with it, even if it goes against everything you've been taught. Right. A simple thing is, so I have 4 college degrees, right? I have 4 degrees. I have a bachelor's and 3 masters.
What?
And my son, and I don't say that to like,
no, but that's a lot of work you put in.
To contrast the story, right? So my son has said that he doesn't want to go to college, right? This brilliant kid. He's like, no, I want to be a rap star. I don't need to go to college.
A rap star?
A rap artist.
Rapper. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. See that?
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
Okay.
I have 2 such kids, so I am totally on board with what's coming, but please tell me.
Yeah. And so that's why I started the story with, I have 4 college degrees. My son does not want to go to college. Right. Oh. And so that, my upbringing would say, smack him over the head. You'd send him to college, right? Like he doesn't have a choice. This is not a choice for him. But that intuition and like, that everything, that transition that I went to, the pilgrimage, like the smacking over the head, all led to Farheen, just listen and like be the parent he needs you to be. Mm-hmm. If today he is saying he doesn't want to go to college, he wants to be a rap artist, that means he's feeling this energy, this excitement, this love for the rap, right? For rapping. So embrace that. That's what he's excited about. If I push against it, that doesn't mean that he's now going to go to something else and love it. It just means he's going to dig his heels in further, right?
Yeah. Or he'll be miserable, right?
Yeah, or he'll be miserable. Yeah, but no, he wouldn't do that. He would just dig in. Right. And so I said, well, if I put my judgments to the side and if I really think about it, man, is the ROI on college always positive? Always positive? Maybe not. And and if you don't go to college, does it always mean that you will be a bum homeless guy on the street? Like, no, right? Those aren't absolute extremes. Absolutely. So stop playing them as extremes, right? And allow him to go on this journey himself of what does that mean to be a professional rap artist? What does he have to do? And how, like, what conversations can I help him have, right? So connecting him with people in the music industry, letting him have those conversations so he can learn and see, and whether it's either helping guide him so that he can be more successful on that path, or realizing, okay, this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. Maybe I need to modify my plan a little bit, whatever that looks like, right? But in either case, educating him on what that path looks like, because I have no clue. Yeah. My only idea would be, oh my God, why the heck are you going to do that? You're going to be a bum on the street. You're going to be a homeless guy, and I am not paying for your lifestyle, right? But allowing him to be educated on what that path looks like, I have no idea, but bringing in those experts, helping connect him with people that I know that may be able to guide him, right? But it's only because of me listening to that intuition, listening to that energy, that spiritual guidance, all of that allowed me to be in a mental place where I can put the judgments to the side and just be the parent that my son needs. Right. And I have to say a little excitement. Over the last couple of days, he's been like mentioning college every once in a while. So, there's something happening in the background, but, I'll smile and do my little happy dance in seclusion away from him so he doesn't see it. Right.
Yeah.
But, he's on that journey, and he's not going to have the same journey that any other kid does. Every kid has their own journey, and his is going to be his, which may not match the timeline I have in my mind.
But you're letting him explore, and you're letting him find out, and you're supporting him in that journey. And that's what parenting really is about, is to support our children become who they are, who they want to be, and support them through that process, right? Yeah. So I love that you're doing that. I wanted to ask, when you were talking, one question that came to me was, do you have a practice to tap into your intuition? Do you have a ritual? Do you have a time that you take out to find that pause? Or do you feel like since you've done this work, it just comes automatically?
That's a good question. I don't, Chitra. I don't necessarily have a practice that kind of brings me into that headspace. That's really interesting.
But do you think it's just like all that decluttering has made space for that automatically?
Exactly. I think it's more of that. I think that all of the toxicity that I have left away now, like I've gotten rid of all of that, has cleared my mind to just be listening all the time and be open and, and be aware all of the time. And leaving all of that to the side has also allowed me to slow my life down a little bit, right? So I'm not running all the time. I choose when I start to see that I'm overwhelmed and I've got kind of overbooked myself, I pull back, and I can. That's one of the luxuries I have, right? One of the privileges I have. I just pull back because I want to be able to sit on my patio, drink my cup of tea, look at the sun setting, right? I just want to be able to do that and not be thinking, well, okay, I got to get this done and then that done and then this, and then we have to go here. And so I try on purpose to slow down and make sure that I have those moments and I'm leading the life slower than I was before. Right.
You're such a case study for everything that I talk about, because I'm like, oh, this is exactly everything that I say. Because when I did a workshop called the No Meditation Guide to Finding Your Zen, and I talk about how we don't need to meditate, or put this pressure on ourselves to meditate. All we need to do is remove that clutter, that toxicity, process those emotions, rise up in our energy, and then we automatically start to make space every single day, all the time. And then that just creates that clarity that gives you that space for intuition. So you're literally demonstrating that for us in your life. So thank you. Totally. Tell me, through the Mira Shop, tell me a little bit about the Mira Shop. And you have an upcoming investment firm. You want to give back in powerful ways. How does living in alignment with your values feel today? And what is this pull you have to give back?
Sure. So, first off, the Mira Shop is a ethical jewelry and accessories brand. I work with women artisans from around the world because the whole idea is to empower and educate women. So I work with women artisans around the world, bring their traditional crafts to the US. And then a portion of the proceeds go back and are reinvested to help send girls to school. Many parts of the world, girls simply don't have access to school like we do in the US. And so, education changed my life. I told you 4 degrees, right? Education changed my life. A critical part of how I want to pay it forward is to help other girls get that same access to education so that they can change their lives, right? So that's really this business. Honestly, it's less about the jewelry. It's more about helping the women artisans with, in their crafts, and then giving back to girls. I had already been for about a decade, supporting a couple of different organizations that work in building schools for girls. And I just wanted to take my money further through a business where I can then, be able to multiply the impact that I can have. So this business is all fine jewelry, all handmade, all artisan crafted. And then the kind of financial advisory investment business that I will hopefully be starting up at some point this year is along the same lines, right? Why was I able to say no to this corporate career and then be able to start a business on my own? It's because I had financial clarity, right? I don't have the money to go buy yachts and live in mansions and things like that. I had financial clarity. I knew how much money I had. I knew my expenses. I knew how much I needed to have in order to get me to retirement before I could access my retirement funds, right? I had all of that math clear. And so I could make decisions aligned with my values. I could make decisions that were best for me and my family, not ones that I had to do because I needed the money to pay the bills, right? And so this investment business is about specifically helping women get to that point of financial clarity so that they can make the right decisions if they need to leave a toxic work environment, if they need to leave a toxic relationship, if they simply want the security that if something happens to their job, their kids' college, things like that are not going to be jeopardized, right? Just that state of mind. And so the goal with this business is focusing on women kind of around our age, helping them get that financial clarity so they can make the decisions that are right for them.
Oh my God, this is amazing. And I know so many people need it. Women especially, we don't take the time to understand the finances. We have such terrible relationship with money. We don't feel confident spending it. We don't feel confident asking for it. And so I love that you're taking on this along with the Mira Shop. And I've seen your pieces and they're amazing and so fun. And I can't wait to see how you change people's lives through the financial advising as well. Yeah. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, in the conversations I've had, Chitra, there are women that are earning 6-figure salaries that say, oh, my husband takes care of the finances. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's fine. That's fine that your husband takes care of the finances, but do you understand them? Right? Do you understand how much your household is spending every month? Do you understand how much you are saving? What are you as a family doing with those savings? Are you able to put them to work for you? Right? All of those kinds of questions, I think every woman should be able to answer, regardless of whether their husband is actually managing the money. They should be educated.
Yeah. You can divide and conquer the responsibilities, but we should all have the knowledge. I agree. 100%. I mean, I used to work in a bank, so that's where I first started to kind of get into all of the finances. And to this day, my husband does take care of our finances, but he's always like, "You should know this stuff. You should know this stuff." And I'm like, "Okay." And then we sit, and then we learn about stocks, and then a few months later, I'm like, "This is not for me. You got this," but. Yeah, but at least I understand what's going on. I have a sense of, and every year we'll sit down and he'll kind of talk me through that process, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah. Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah.
Right?
So he's passionate about financial freedom. You guys should connect. But tell me, if somebody is listening to you right now, listening to us talk and having these, doubts in their mind or fighting with, a toxic environment or a toxic person in their life, what is one mindset shift that you can provide for them? Or what is the one place that you would ask them to kind of lean into?
To have hope. Have hope, because every situation is something that you can control, right? Sooner or later, you will figure out how to get yourself into that healthy situation, right? As long as you have hope. And that, I think, is really critical. As long as you have hope, once you've got the hope, okay, the second thing is, man, ask for help. Ask for help, right? Everyone is struggling in some way and everyone wants to help. So just ask for the help. You don't have to suffer by yourself. You don't have to suffer alone, right? You don't have to suffer a toxic environment. There are amazing jobs out there, amazing leaders that are beautiful, wonderful souls that will help you grow, that will value you, right? And I told you in my career, 23 years, 2 years that I had that were not good, 21 years where I reported to leaders that were absolutely phenomenal, right? So if you are in one of those situations, know that there definitely is, there's a better situation ahead. You've just got to navigate your way through this.
Yeah.
Sorry, one other thing that I would say, every situation is in your life for a reason. Try to take the time to understand why whatever you're struggling with is in your life right now. Right? What is it that you're supposed to learn in this situation? What is it that you're supposed to grow from in this situation? Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in another similar situation until you learn that lesson, whatever that lesson is that you're supposed to learn. Right. And so, don't look at it as a punishment. Look at it as an opportunity for you to learn something that you need to learn for something that's going to happen in the future. So learn it so that you're going to be able to navigate better in the future.
Okay. I love that you said that, because that's another thing I always say. And, I get challenged on it sometimes by people who've been through some really rough stuff. And they're like, I don't buy that everything happens for a reason. But
Okay.
I do see exactly what you're saying. And I do believe exactly what you're saying, which is that if we don't understand the lesson in the obstacle or the struggle, it is going to come back in similar ways or a different way, shape, or form. So I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, what was the reason that you attracted all of these things? Do you know? Yeah. Have you had clarity on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was not leading my life. I was letting life lead me.
Do you have a book? Do you have a book coming out? Because this is all of this needs to be in a book.
We'll write this together. No, it was absolutely that, right? I was doing, the story I told you. You study really hard in high school, right? You get good grades, you get to a good college. I was doing the stuff that I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't making life choices. I wasn't leading my life. And what this moment said was, man, I'm shutting the door on that, that inertia, that hamster wheel thing that you're on, right?
Yeah.
You got to go figure it out yourself. What are you going to do with your life? Because a lot of it is in a disaster. So go fix it, right? Go figure out what you're going to do, because your job is a toxic place. Your relationship with your son is not going well. What are you going to do, Farheen? Right? And so it was a smack over the head to say, lead your life. Figure out what's next. Don't let others figure that out for you. You figure out what's next.
Right? Live life on your own terms, right?
Yeah.
Stop living on everyone else's terms.
Yeah.
Oh, I am so grateful for everything that you have shared today. This was incredible. Thank you for being so open. Thank you for being so honest, so vulnerable, and sharing everything with us, because I know there's a lot of learning moments here. There's a lot of lessons. And I know that people will get so much out of it. How can people find you if they need to find you?
Lots of ways. So LinkedIn, I think, is a great way, right? And I'm sure in the notes, you'll have my full name, right? So you can look me up on LinkedIn if you want to have conversations with me. I'm happy to have a follow-up conversation on anything we talked about. But other than that, the Mira Shoppe, please check it out. I love this. This is my passion project. I love this business. Here, you can see how to spell it, the Mira Shoppe. Check it out. Hopefully you like something. I've got lots of great promotions going on right now for Mother's Day. But you can definitely check out the website. I'm sure the link will be in the notes. Yeah. But yeah, those would be the two places, LinkedIn and my website.
Beautiful. Oh my God. We're going to put all the information in the show notes. Everybody who's listening, please check out the Mira Shoppe and connect with Farheen on LinkedIn. She is an amazing resource for help, not just in, the family and all of that dynamic, but also professionally. You have a ton of wisdom, and thank you again for being here and sharing your story.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.